Chimiglitch. I can't tell you what those two songs meant. So Chimiglitch, I want to introduce Dr. Peter Menzies, the person who brought this book all together, brought all the authors together. Dr. Peter Menzies, can you come up here? He's resistant. I'd say, I'd like to introduce Dr. Peter Menzies and he'd start walking up, but no.
I had a big, can you hear me? How about now? How about now? Anyways, I had a big speech all lined up about how this book came about. You know, and I brought my specs out and, you know, I was going to read it and carry on for about a half hour. And I think what I'd like to highlight is that this book is not just about Lynn and me. It's about all the authors that have, you know, contributed to this book. About them taking the time to write and to think about these topics that are very poignant to us as First Nations people. And there are a lot of issues that our people are, you know, confronting that are rest within the 500 years of colonialization and imperialism. All these problems we have isn't because, as Aboriginal people, these are the problems that the Creator gave us. These are the problems that were given to us. And I think the purpose of this book is really to set the stage. What does the traditional Medewan person say about us? What does the logical, historical data person tell us? What does the residential schools tell us? What does child welfare tell us? What is this animal called intergenerational trauma? So I'm really praying that the intent of this book was to really create a stage and to present from that stage a lot of the issues that are confronting our people, like opiates and gambling and family violence. So it was a book that really took time with working with CAMH, the Center of Addiction and Mental Health, working with their staff, and working with a lot of First Nations writers. I think I got all my gray hair from them. But the book's title, Journey to Healing, I struggled with many nights trying to figure out what a title should be. What does it look like? Does it have meaning to the readers? Does it have meaning to the authors? And does it have meaning to me? And so, with the patience of Lynn, who was the co-author, who told me to settle down, that the spirits will get to me. And they did. The title of the book started to emerge. But most important was the elder Vern Parker. I was struggling with who should write the foreword. And there were all these brilliant names that came out, all the researchers and professors at different universities. And I thought, my dream said no. And it mentioned Elder Vern Parker. The journey to healing came out of not just a thought, but when I got hired by CAMH in 2000, I was asked to do a needs assessment of the city of Toronto's Aboriginal community. And it took me a long time to write that report. And the title was Journey to Healing, working with Aboriginal people in Toronto. And I thought, wow, the dream is telling me to use Journey to Healing. Many of us Aboriginal people let our dreams and visions and the spirits speak to us. I found that when I was writing the book with the mainstream writers, they had difficulties with that. It's something they can't understand. But when you go to sweat lodges and you live it, and you experience the world of spirits and see them, you begin to realize that we do see them. They are there. And they speak to us in volumes. The question is, are we prepared to listen to them? And I think at this particular time, I was prepared to listen to them, see what they had to say to me. So the purpose of the book is really to go through the journey of what Aboriginal people have gone through, to keep your minds open, and then to look at the issues that have been challenging us for many years, from alcohol right to all the issues now. Even the debate of marijuana. There's a huge debate for Aboriginal communities. The federal government says no. Other organizations are saying yes. But then I ask myself, when that debate's going on, is that really an Aboriginal issue? And the answer is no. It doesn't belong to us, marijuana. It belongs to them. So if they want to have their first psychosis, if they want to become depressed, we're already there, so we don't need that. We need to be self-determined and to say no to the federal government and to these organizations across Canada that are saying legalize it. Even though we know, when we look at the preliminary research coming out of the United States of America, that's suggesting that places that have legalized marijuana, the rates of first psychosis have shot up by 100 to 200%. And they're contributing to the legalization of marijuana. So there is a debate that needs to happen. And I'm getting an article published where I debate the merits of organizations that are trying to speak for other population groups and for the federal government trying to speak for us. So we need to resolve that issue from our perspective. And so this book really is the beginning. Lynn and I have been discussing that we want to do a second one. But it's going to really deal with the issues that we think we can deal with, like anxiety, depression, and all these types of issues from an Aboriginal perspective, from a clinical Aboriginal perspective. So this is an exciting book. I'm sounding like a seller, but please, if you can open up your wallets. I heard people who work for the Native Canadian Friendship Center today got paid. So open up your wallets a little bit and get yourself a great book. Please do not read the book as a novel, because it's going to drive you crazy. It's not a novel. It's not intended to be treated as a novel. It's a book that you take with you, and when you're confronted with issues that you may have limited understanding, like opiates, read it. It will help you to get you a sense of what you're dealing with. And I think that's the whole purpose of this book. So I really want to thank, first and foremost, all the authors who really put up with my nonsense and my phone calls and my emails. And I'm looking at Cheryl Partridge right over there. I'm sure she was mad at me a couple of times. She's saying no, but I can see her at her desk at Laurentian University shaking her head. But, you know, and for Anton for putting up with me, making my comments, and, you know, thank you. And for Janet over there who wrote the chapter on homelessness, thank you for being patient with Lynn and I. This was a journey that was new, and we were excited and anxious. So I want to thank the authors for making this book happen. The second person I want to thank is Lynn. Lynn came when the bus was rolling down, you know, out of control. But she brought a sense. Whoa. You call Lisa Morrison, I see?
Yeah.
Lynn brought a sense of patience and calmness, where I was kind of hyper and chasing offers, trying to get names of chapters, and trying to do this and this. Lynn was the one who was kind of, I would look across the table and see, calm down here, take it easy, right? You know, the world's not going to end. So I want to thank Lynn for being a good support and for keeping me on the right track. She's seen me in my moments of anger, and I do get angry, but so she's seen that. The third and foremost is I want to thank Louise McKenzie, who's, I don't see her. She was the primary editor that really, I had many phone calls, many emails, and I can still hear her voice in my head, the way she sounds and the way she's thinking about a paragraph or a chapter. So I really want to thank her. Then I want to thank Michelle Names. She was our organizer, and she kept us on track. Now, she was pressured by the hierarchies of CAMH to get this book out. So she had to get us organized, make sure contracts are signed, make sure that the editing is done right, and doing all that stuff. So I give her that credit, because she also put up with my snarkiness and my sometimes anger when CAMH was saying, you can't do this, when in fact, that's what I wanted to do. So those are the people that I really want to thank. And then for the other people, like the editors that came on board afterwards, and the structural editors, to really making this book come alive. When you start the book, it doesn't seem like it's going to come alive, that it's just going to just be there. And now it's out, it's like you're saying to yourself, well, geez, I'm hoping it's doing well. That was the gist of my long speech. And I'm going to just read out a little paragraph, and then I'm going to conclude, and the other speakers are going to come up and talk about what they think of the book and things like that. In closing, our journey to healing reminds us that healing is a process. There is no quick solution to resolving human issues that have been shaped over 500 years of painful imperialism and colonialism, beneath which all my relations. I'm still happy to stay up. I don't like being front and center. Anyways, I'm here to introduce the next speaker. It's a representative from CAMH, Dave. Dave is the director, and he works in the education and publication research department. Dave came towards the end of the book. So the book was rolling along, and the whole educational department got restructured. People retired and moved on, and then other people came forward, and one of them was Dave. And then I got to know Dave a little bit, because I would go to his office and talk with him a bit about what this book is and things like that. So it must have been hard for Dave to come in when the bus was rolling down the hill at an uncontrollable speed, and trying to get up to speed into the personalities and what was going on, and who liked who, and who didn't like what was this chapter trying to say. But I appreciate that Dave came, and he's going to talk about how this book, what it means for CAMH and probably the educational system. So Dave?
try that now. How's that? Is that better? Great. Well, thank you, Peter. It's truly humbling to be here and a part of this today. And I thank you for welcoming us into this and welcoming us to be part of your dream, Peter. The one thing I'll say is Peter he was very gracious in his introduction. I have to admit I'm probably one of those upper ups from CAMH that pushed for the book to be done, and so I stand here a little bit humble, but we are so thrilled that this book is coming out. So I'm here today to represent Dr. Ivan Silver, who's our Vice President at CAMH, and he was to be here today. Unfortunately, his doctor told him that he had to keep his bike in bed today. So he wasn't able to come, and he would have come otherwise. As Peter said, I'm Dave Woodger, and I'm one of the directors in education, and really have the privilege to be part of CAMH Publications and the ability to produce a lot of really important work like this book today. So it's one of my accountabilities to make sure that these things happen, and it's one of the reasons why we have to push it a little bit from time to time here. So my apologies for that. So first I want to say thank you and congratulations to Doctors Peter Menzies and Lynn Lavallée on your considerable achievement, your persistence, and your dedication in editing Journey to Healing, and really making this dream come about. As has already been mentioned, we brought together over 40 leading contributors, writing 31 amazing chapters, and in doing so created a landmark publication. So thank you for that. Journey to Healing is an important publication for the addictions and mental health field in Canada, and for the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health. It's a singular volume that brings together predominantly Aboriginal voices from across Canada to address historical and cultural contexts of the addiction and mental health problems within the Aboriginal communities. In addition, it sets out an effective roadmap, a journey, if you will, for understanding and addressing those issues. And we believe that the book is unique in the Canadian context, and that will be an important part of the conversation for many years to come. As such, Journey to Healing continues CAMH's commitment to producing ambitious and authoritative texts that lead the addiction and mental health field. They're texts that are counted on to provide the foundation for teaching and inspiring new generations of mental health and addictions professionals and their allies. Journey to Healing continues a tradition of looking at the challenging realities related to mental health and addiction problems. And more importantly, the publication explores difficult issues like intergenerational trauma and the over-representation of Aboriginal and First Nations in the criminal justice system, and explores how we can effectively and realistically move forward and make the journey to healing. We are really thrilled about not only the publication, but how it's been received. We want to let you know that it's been adopted for courses at both Laurentian, I heard today at Laurentian, the University of British Columbia, Ryerson University, and it's being reviewed by others. Instructors and course leads coast to coast have eagerly requested review copies, and we're very confident that the book will become a go-to text for many years to come. In addition to expressing our gratitude to Lynn and Peter, we want to acknowledge and thank Alberta Harper for providing a forward to Journey to Healing, and for your commitment to life, to advocacy, especially for urban Aboriginal peoples. And it's truly inspirational. Thank you for being part of it. I also want to acknowledge the hard work of the authors, as Peter said already, and their enormous selfless and generous contribution to the work. So are there authors, if they could raise their hand and be your name be acknowledged? Our authors, thank you so much for your CAMH Education, and we are proud to call you partners and collaborators, and we thank you very much. Also, we'd like to thank our team of developers, designers, and editors who helped to bring this type of project to life. Michelle Maines has already been recognized, but Michelle, thank you for your leadership. Kemma Bogar, Diana Mallon, Jacqueline Waller-Ginkar, Mara Korkova, and Andrew Johnson is here today. Thank you to all of you. We also want to thank our partners within CAMH, especially Access and Transition, for their support and financial commitment to this project. And a final thanks goes to Ryerson for organizing this wonderful event today. And to the Native Canadians that are in Toronto for hosting the event. So on behalf of Dr. Silver and CAMH, I want to thank you again for allowing us to participate in this very important journey to healing. Thank you.
I was promised this is my last words. I'd like to introduce Linda Valley. She was very instrumental in having this event happen. I had a little voice because I was rarely in the big city of Toronto. But she organized it, she got people on board, she got the food, she bugged Ryerson for money, and so she was very instrumental in this whole event. So I just want to, say thank you. So I'm very humble with that, knowing that I'm just riding the surf here, knowing that Lynn really put this, together. So I've known Lynn for many years. We have had our many arguments about urban reserves, and First Nations, and who should be status and who should not be status, and what is the role of urban First Nations have to do anything with First Nations, and things like that. So we have had our difficulties and our challenges, but we've always stayed together. She would pick me up, and we would go to a restaurant, or take me to the subway, but we always kept in touch with each other, even during our arguments. And when I thought about Lynn, it was an opportunity because I knew Lynn, and I knew how she kind of thought. I knew what she felt, and I knew she was on a sabbatical leave. So all these little things were sitting out there, and I was going all over these names, but I kept on coming back to Lynn about getting this book forward. And so when she agreed, I was happy that she took the reins and moved forward with me in this journey to this book. So I want to introduce you to Dr. Linda Valley. She's an associate professor at the University of Ryerson, and she teaches in the School of Social Work.
Miigwech, Peter. Where do I start? Yeah, the bus was actually going down the hill, and what Peter failed to mention, it was about to crash. Luckily, I can drive large vehicles, and no, I was really honored for when Peter asked me to be part of this book. And we first met in the early 2000s. We were both doctoral students at the University of Toronto, and we both had the same supervisor for our dissertation. So we met quite a while ago, and yeah, we've had conversations about, First Nations, actually Métis, Inuit, and First Nations identity in that order. That was a joke, by the way. So, one thing I wanted to emphasize with this book, Peter asked me to write a chapter at first, and I think this was in 2007 or 2008. And he asked me to write the chapter on youth, and I thought, well, I haven't been a youth for a while, and I asked my niece, Kellyanne Fairney, who's here today, to co-author the chapter with me, because I felt it would be a better chapter. And I think that is what is symbolic of this book, is that Peter asked people to write chapters in this book, people who actually work in community, who aren't typically writing books. This book is very unique for that reason. A lot of books that are out there, academic books on mental health and addiction, on health in general, are written sometimes solely by one author, solely sometimes by a non-Aboriginal author, which is okay. But I think that this book is quite unique in that it has two co-editors who are Anishinaabe, and throughout the book there are both non-Aboriginal and Aboriginal authors. And I think the book was very symbolic of invitation to our community, and that's why we're having this community book launch. It's an invitation to our community to see this book. We don't want it to stay in a university, right? We want our communities to see this book. It starts off with Cheryl Partridge doing a traditional opening for a book. So today we had Elder Vern Harper do a traditional opening for us. And the book actually starts that way as well, with Cheryl Partridge providing that opening. And then throughout, there are 41 authors and 31 chapters. That in and of itself is very unique. A lot of times there's one or two authors, and then maybe two editors, and then 8 authors in total in a book. This book is quite unique. Peter mentioned, dig through your wallets. Today, you're getting the author's rate. So the book is $69.95, and if you buy it online, it's $100 basically. So, there's an opportunity to purchase the book at that rate. One of the things when I first saw the sticker price, I was like, oh gosh, like that's really expensive. But again, it's the uniqueness of the book, and there are 41 authors and 31 chapters, right? And the work that went into it was quite demanding. So, I definitely think it's worth that purchase, and I hope you enjoy the chapters when you read them. The other thing about the book that's quite unique is we brought ourselves into the book. So when I first got the outline of what I needed to write in the youth chapter, I was told, okay, you have to talk about statistics, and then you need to talk about programs that are in Aboriginal communities and things like that. But then as we moved on, we actually brought our stories into the book, and we immersed ourselves into the book. Later on, I was also asked to write the tobacco chapter, and tobacco, and the chapter is called My Relationship with Tobacco. Although I've never smoked cigarettes, I definitely have a relationship with sacred tobacco. And, commercial tobacco has impacted my family significantly. So I wrote on that chapter as well. I want to say Chimiigwech to the authors that are here today, and we're going to invite you up to say a few words.